Okay, we're going to talk about graphing systems of linear inequalities. So you already watched the video on graphing just linear inequalities and how to shade and all this. Now we're going to put it together with the system. System is one or more uh, inequalities. Okay, and then you find where they overlap. Okay, so I'm going to do some examples. Okay, so if I have y is greater than -4, x is greater than -2, y is less than or equal to -2/3 x plus 3, and y is greater than 4/5 x minus 4. So it says graph those and find the solution. Okay, I'm just going right to some complicated ones where you have 4 of them, for example, not just 1 or 2, or just not like 2 or 3. Okay, so I graph each one of these. First, I just graph the lines. Y is greater than -4. So you should know by now that's a dashed horizontal line at -4. All the y values must be -4. X can be anything. Now I have x equals -2. Okay, so there's x equals -2. Okay, and by the way, I should write the equation or inequality right next to it at the end of the line. X greater than -2, so I know what side to shade on, and the teacher knows which one you're saying is which, and that way they can make sure you're not copying off somebody else as well, because now you have to do more work, and you lazy people who want to try to copy don't like writing down everything. All right, next one. We have y is equal to -2/3 x plus 3. We know the y-intercept is 3. We start there, and we use these directions of down to right 3, down to right 3 to get another point. And it's solid, so it must be, it's got an equal sign in it, so it must be solid. And all right, y is less than or equal to -2/3 x plus 3. And lastly, I have y equals 4/5 x minus 4. Start at -4 and go up 4 and right 5. So up 4, right 5 puts it right there. And it doesn't have an equal sign, so I know it's dashed. Okay, arrows at the end. And I have y is greater than 4/5 x minus 4. Okay. Okay. So now, shading all this, finding the actual region. It has to be greater than this, so it has to be up here. So it wipes out the bottom down below this. Okay, change the color. So now we're talking up here in this region, above the line y equals -4. Okay, so we know that up there. It has to be to the right of, since it says x is greater than -2, that's to the right. All right, right there, I can write above here. Okay, x is greater than -2, all the x values greater than -2 are to the right of -2. So now it has to be over here. In this region, it wipes out this side over here. It has to be greater than -2. Now, this one says it has to be below this line right here. So it has to be down here. Okay, it wipes out above it. It has to be down in there. And lastly, it says above on this one, because it's greater than. So I take this red dashed one down here, and it has to be above that, and so it puts it in here. So therefore, this is my region right here that is shaded. Okay, that is it. Now, if you thought it was a different region, you came with a different region, one thing you should always do is check your answer by picking a point in there. And again, the easiest one to pick would be 0, 0. Okay, 0, 0. that's not on any of those lines, so I can pick it. That's the easiest one. It has to be true for all four. 0, 0 must be true for all four inequalities. Okay, if it is, then that's the right region. If it's false on one of them, you now shade the wrong region. Okay, it doesn't tell you what the other regions are because we have mass of regions. We have, if we call this region 1, we have this region over here 2, we have this region up there 3, we have this region down here 4, we have this region down here 5, we have this region down here 6, and we have this region over here 7. So it's actually 7, and I could actually go up here for an 8, all the way up over there. I extended this out, okay? So there are plenty of regions, okay? But 0, 0, so I plug it in. If I plug in 0 for the y, because all I can do is plug in y coordinate there. Is 0 greater than -4? Yes, it is. True. I only can plug in the x coordinate here. Is 0 greater than -2? Yes, it is. True. Here I can plug in both zeros for the x and the y. I get 0 is less than or equal to 3. Is that true? Yes, it is. I plug in 0 for the x and the y in the last one. I get 0 is greater than -4. Is that true? Yes, it is. So it's true for all four, and therefore you know you've shaded in the right region. So that's an easy way for you to check to make sure you've shaded the correct region. Okay, so it's helpful that you put the words right, left, above, or below next to these so that you can make sure and double check that you've shaded above or below or to the right or to the left if you had the word left. If it was x less than a number, then it'd be to the left. Okay, ours is greater than, so it's to the right. Okay. Now, will all of you do that? No. And that's why you're going to make errors, because you look for what you think are easier ways to do it, and it's not, especially when you're a beginner. Okay, so now let's go ahead. So that's like the most complicated type one. Don't forget the equation of the y-axis is x equals 0, and the equation of the x-axis is y equals 0. That should not be tough because every y coordinate here is 0 on the x-axis. Every x coordinate here on the y-axis is 0. So what's the one that's being repeated? That's the equation of the line. Okay, so don't forget that as well. Side note, pretty much all real life problems occur in quadrant 1. Remember, this is quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. We write them in Roman numerals. Real life problems, almost every single one occurs in quadrant 1. Okay, just know that. If you're talking about a story problem in real life, you should be dealing with quadrant 1. You'll deal with that in algebra 2 and pre-calc. All right, so now let's say if I give you a system graphed already and you have to write the equation of the systems, all the systems. So let's say I have, I go through here, comes up there. So I have those 2 points in line. Let's say oops, I'll make this dashed here. I'll make this dashed. Oops. Dang. Okay, try to make it more dashed there. And yeah, let's go with that one right there. So the easy one should be the horizontal and the vertical. Okay. This is y equals -2, and it's greater than it. And it's not equal to because it's not solid, so it's greater than -2. This one right here is a vertical, so you know it's x is less than because it's not solid. And that all the x coordinates on that one are 5. So I have x is less than 5. And now I need the oblique one. Now notice I can't see what the y-intercept is. I can't guess, but I do have 2 points on it right here. Okay, so I can use those 2 points and find the slope and then pick one of those points and put it in point slope form. Remember, point slope form is y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. M is your slope, and x sub 1 comma y sub 1 is your point on the line. Okay, 1 point that is. I have 2 points to choose from. I just pick either one. So I need to find the slope. Slope, you should know, is change in y over change in x. Remember, y is either up or down, x is either left or right, depending on if it's positive or negative. So if I start here, I go up, and then across that way, so I'm going that direction. So I went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So plus 6. I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Positive 8 in the x direction. Okay, so if you need to write down y, and this is the x direction, I know it's change in y, which is then plus 6 over change in x, which is plus 8. And then, of course, I need to reduce that down to 3/4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So technically, if I had drawn it correctly with a ruler, it would have gone through that point as well. Okay, it wasn't quite straight. So there's my slope, 3/4, positive. I should recognize it being positive because it's going up to the right. So I better make sure I come up with a positive answer. And then I pick one of these points. So we'll go ahead and pick the point -3, -2. I have a point right there. Okay, and I go ahead and fill it in. Y minus the y coordinate of -2 equals the slope, 3/4 I just found, x minus the x coordinate of -3. Now, of course, I need to switch it down to one sign. So now that is going to be y plus 2 is greater than or equal to 3/4 x plus 3. Okay. I know it's greater. Wait a second, where I'm shading. I'm shading. Oops. Come on. Okay, let's move this whole thing down here. Maybe I can erase it better. Okay, our region is right here. I gotta tell you that. Okay, so we're actually shading below that line, but it's a solid line, so it's less than or equal to. Okay, and so that would be my system of inequalities right there that graph that shaded region. Okay, and you've got another video that talks about that as well. But if you need another one, I'm gonna send you out another one. But that's how I come up with my inequalities, writing a system of inequalities. So we started one where we given the inequalities, the equations themselves, and then we had to graph it, and now we're going backwards. We're given this system, shaded region, and we had to come up with the system itself, the three inequalities in this case. All right, that does it.